Do we need tasks under a user story? If so, why and when do we use them? The two most common reasons for creating tasks beneath a user story are to create a checklist or to rough out an implementation plan. Definition of done checklist versus engineering or investigation approaches. Some want a checklist to remind them to do everything needed for their team's definition of done agreement. Have we had a peer review? Have we run all the scans? Such checklists are fine, but unwittingly, sometimes they promote one nasty habit. Buried within that checklist are there generic entries for develop or code, or perhaps test. If we fail to replace these placeholders with meaningful, more specific entries, many problems creep in. We'll get to those shortly. Others use tasks beneath the user stories to rough out their plan of attack for building something they've never built before. In the case of spike stories, some use them to frame their approach to investigating something they want to learn. Will they prototype a proposed design or test some new APIs to see how they work? Even exploratory spike stories benefit from at least roughing out a strategic approach. Why would anyone not want to create user story tasks? Is the story too small to bother? Is the user story so small that it is essentially one task? Did we break the problem down into batches that are too small? Suppose the whole objective is that small. Well, then that's fine. That's not too small. That's the whole thing. But if the objective of creating some value is much larger, try to avoid breaking it into deliverables the size of a task. Smaller batch sizes are highly desirable, but one can take decomposition too far. Charge the hill and fake it till you make it work styles. Some want to charge the hill, so to speak. They want to jump in and start hacking away. Someone who only works this way finds it difficult to guess how long anything will take, and they either refuse to make estimates or they pull something out of the hat to get inquiring stakeholders off their back. They are unable to break work down into smaller objectives, and they're unable to work within a preset time box like a 2-week sprint. It's called the heroics method, but this type of heroics depends on only one hero, and that hero has everything in their head. Significant endeavors by large organizations must use iterative, interactive product discovery approaches with quick feedback loops, but there's still room for some heroics. Creative contributors still get in the zone and make significant and innovative contributions. But now they're working with a team of heroes. They learn to think and work as a team. Enterprises cannot depend on individual heroics alone in their implementation process. What are some of the hazards then when we use checklist templates? While checklists are great for helping us remember necessary steps, using a generic task for development or testing is a grave error. Generic tasks can lead to loss of clarity, confidence, and accuracy. Replacing general tasks with specific tasks. It's okay as a placeholder, but we must replace these with one or more tasks giving actual steps to our approach. For example, if we need to add region to search criteria on a search dialog page or area in our app, one might have tasks such as the following. 1. Create an interface to a region data source, whether hard-coded or dynamically supplied. 4 hours. 2. Add the region selection dropdown per the UI guidance. 2 hours. 3. Add support for new region information in the backend search method. 2 hours. 4. Add support for the new region information in the results display. 2 hours. 5. Update the last search persistence logic to include the new region information. 1 hour. 6. Update exception handling as needed. 1 hour. See how coding or development ends up expanding to these 6 different, more specific steps. With much more ease, we can estimate how long it will take us to do those steps. Task estimations. What's the top size of a task? Well, generally, create tasks that we can complete within a few hours, often 1 to 6 hours, preferably no more than one workday. Whether or not teams use story points to estimate their stories, we usually estimate tasks beneath the user story in hours. We lacked confidence in our estimates when we just said code or development as the task, but there's still a problem. Can you spot it? The one implementing the task usually creates the task, or at least participates in their creation, and they definitely must be the one to provide time estimates for their task. How can we specify how long these tasks will take unless we already know the specific developer who will do them? One team member might do step 3 in 2 hours, but another might need 6 hours or more. Because most teams create and estimate these tasks right before a sprint, most teams prefer to use story points for the estimation of the user story itself. Story points provide a defensible relative sizing for planning purposes, regardless of who ends up implementing the story later. Risky placeholders. Finally, let's talk about risky placeholders, things like analyze or design. It's best to do these activities before or during sprint planning, rather than having them as a task under the story. In addition to a definition of done agreement, prescribing what must be true for a user story to be considered complete, teams are wise to also provide a definition of ready about what must be true before a team consumes a story into a sprint. Is a spike story preferable if the team cannot afford to delay progress rather than create tasks for analysis and design? Of course, we must use common sense. If the team believes they need a task for a small amount of analysis, then that's okay. But they should not consume a story with great uncertainty and just fake it until they make it. If there is no confidence that the story will finish within the sprint, do not consume it. Consume a spike instead, or schedule it later after you've had time to analyze and design it.